Friday, it's time to thrash. This is the UK Thrashers radio show. This is Tortured Demon and Cold Blood. brand new track by Tortured Demon. Check out the review on our website if you haven't seen that already. That's out next Friday. Okay, next up is Obzidian, taken from their Concrete Psychosis album. This is Fury. Okay, and next up is this week's interview. Okay, this week in the virtual studio, we welcome Manchester Thrashers Beyond Salvation. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, mate. You all right?
Hello.
Do you guys want to introduce yourself and missing members? Or member?
Literally missing members. Yeah, so anyhow, yeah. I'm Jon. I'm vocals and guitar. We also have...
Yeah, my name's Arun. I'm guitar and backing vocals as well.
And then we also have a drummer called Simeon, who's not with us today. And then the bass player void is waiting to be filled at the moment, if we put it like that. So, yeah.
I was going to touch on that. Obviously, you've parted ways with your previous bass player. What's happening? You on the search, or are you just kind of letting things happen naturally?
No, yeah. We've got a couple of guys learning the songs at the moment. So, as with a lot of things, just waiting for lockdowns and tier systems to disappear so we can get in a room and play some songs with a few people and see how it gels. So actually, to be honest, really exciting times in a way. It's just that sort of build before it can actually be allowed to happen, as it were, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess it's quite difficult having that sort of turbulence happening with everything else that's going on, but also, I guess, giving you a good step forward going into the start of next year and hopefully getting back out and playing again.
Yeah, definitely. So, like I said, should be just change is as good as a rest, I suppose, is a way of putting it. So, it should be good, like I said. See what, we might be able to squeeze a few jams in with these guys before the end of the year, depending on what the government say and if our practice room opens up. So just fingers crossed and hopefully it all clicks into place.
Excellent. So give us a little bit of history. Where did you guys come from? How long have you been a band? And kind of how you got to become Beyond Salvation, really?
So we're from Manchester and I think the band, I've been playing with us for 5 years. It was going a little bit before, so it was originally started by Sim, our drummer, and Martin, our original guitarist. And then I joined, and then just over the years, as things do, they just sort of develop and change. People's commitments, priorities differ. Arun joined us 3 years ago in January. It's been...
it's January
24th, mate.
January 24th, yeah, but it was 2018, was it? Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry. Whatever. Yeah, it will be, yeah.
I was just going to say, what about previous bands? Have you done kind of other bands, other musical styles, or?
No, I've been in quite a lot of bands, but just basically because I'm a musical whore and like playing lots of different kinds of things. So yeah, there's I'm not going to sit and list them off because there's loads, but.
I think you had 5 bands on the go when you joined us 3 years ago.
I mean, that includes things like covers bands, which kind of, like, in my mind doesn't count because, covers bands are sort of like, they're functional, in that, you're only really, you do it for a different reason as to like why you do sort of originals metal, as it were. But yeah, at the moment, my main focus is Beyond Salvation, and then I do have another band called Screaming Beast, but that's not really particularly active. So yeah, basically I'm all about Beyond Salvation these days.
What about you, Jon?
I've been in bands, but before Beyond Salvation, I wasn't really doing anything metal. I was in like singer-songwriter type sort of stuff, and then like I was saying to you earlier, I just wanted to meet more people that were into metal because all my friends were into football and I don't like football. So, basically found there was an ad in, was it Join My Band on the paper, saying if you like Slayer and Silosis, we need another guitarist. So I was just about getting married, but I was like, I can't turn that down. So yeah, and the rest is history. And then yeah, since then, just been good to get back in metal. I don't think I've been in a metal band since I'm 36 now. I was in metal bands for like my early 20s, 21, 25, and I've really just done different stuff, but nothing big. Not like the old musical whore in the corner here, spinning every other band in Manchester, I think.
I don't know about that. That's a bit of an exaggeration. I've definitely been on the scene for quite a lot of time, though. You know, I've been on the scene since I was like 18, as it were. So, or even before that. And I'm 34 now, so that gives you some indication of how long that's been.
And on that, has the Manchester scene always been quite strong? I think we talk to most people at the moment, and it's obviously it's really vibrant, and we'll probably come back onto it in a bit. But has it always been like that, or has it had some flat spots?
No, it's always been strong. Always, there's always been loads of bands, like to the point where it's quite difficult to sort of stand out, and it's quite difficult to say get gigs because there's just always loads and loads of bands that are fighting for the same spot, as it were. Obviously, there were probably more spots back in the day, but yeah, it's always been a really strong scene here. I mean, I'm thinking back to like some of the sort of all-dayer or sort of two-dayer even festivals that used to and still do, pandemic aside, still do happen, and there's always tons of bands, and it can be quite difficult, which is good because there's a lot of choice and there's a lot of things going. It's not like the same 5 bands playing every week, so it's always been a really strong scene as far as I've seen anyway. So
Beyond Salvation sound, how would you describe what you do?
How do I say it without saying a poor man's silosis?
I was hoping you'd not say that.
I'm thinking groove-driven thrash metal, very inspired by the likes of Machine Head and When They're Good and Sarah. And just riff orientated with a sense of groove and trying to get hooks and catchiness into really, really heavy metal. Yeah.
I like Badger's description of us. He describes us as a hardcore thrash, and I think the hardcore element comes from the sound of Jon's voice, because it's quite a sort of hardcore-y sort of delivery, but the music underneath it is quite sort of groovy thrash metal. So I don't know, piece something together and take from that what you will.
Yeah, because you're quite and I've just written the review for your new single, and you're quite a technical band. There's a lot of elements to it, and I think you've got kind of a bit of an anthem about it. It always sounds like a bit of an event when you listen to one of your tracks, especially the new stuff. There's lots of atmosphere, all that sort of stuff. Is that something that you've worked hard to make sure that you're not just another thrash band, for want of a better term? Do you try and work on that whole, it sounds like wank experience, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, sorry, I could sit here and procrastinate about us all night, so I didn't want to dwell too much, but I think there's a few things that we always try and do, and a lot of it happens naturally, like whenever me and Arun are writing riffs and stuff, but say when an idea is sort of started, and then the next point, I think, and especially everything after the Scarberry EP, when me and Arun really started writing together, like trying to get big choruses into all our songs is something that we want to do. So even though I'm screaming and there isn't really any clean singing, trying to have catchy hooks to the vocals, and then just, I don't know, I always think thrash is quite a weird one, because if I think of thrash bands, I'll sort of think more like Megadeth, and then all the Megadeth sort of knockoffs, where I always feel there's more bands ripping off Megadeth than Metallica, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know, and like not that sort of just constantly blasting cheesy sort of thrash vibe, trying to get a bit more of a serious take on it. I think thrash metal is for us actually anyways a little bit of a misnomer, because again, when I think of thrash metal, I think of like Exodus and Testament and early Slayer and bands like that, which, I mean, there are those elements in our music, but I wouldn't say we sound like that. We don't sound like
Megadeth or too much like Metallica or things like that. So I think it's like a modern take on thrash metal.
And
it's like where it's going.
That genre's got harder and harder to package up anyway, hasn't it? A lot of the bands, people like me who were into thrash in the late 80s, early 90s, drifted off into death metal, kind of went down some dirty, dark, black metal rabbit holes and came back out the other side. So, all those things have been, swept up, and people, like you guys who are 10 years younger than me, and then, the young kids, the Steel Minges and the Tortured Demons, they're coming in, and they're starting at the end of the journey and going backwards. So you kind of, I think it's just been not diluted, because that's a negative connotation, but there's a lot more, I guess, influences into thrash than there was back in, 86.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's diluted. I would say it's expanded.
Yeah, but it's not pure thrash in that, if you gave a band in 86. You took a standard, say, Metallica, Megadeth, Exodus in 86 and gave them something from 2020 to listen to, I think it'd blow their little minds.
Yeah, fair shout. But I think it's I don't know if it's a problem with metal, but everyone wants a tag, don't they? And it just instantly gets subgenred and then subgenred again to the point where it's, post-apocalyptic crash. Unicorn metal or something, and it just gets a bit silly. But I'm the same, when I'm trying to find new bands, personally, actually, if I'm trying to, like, say, if I'm reading Metal Hammer or a review, it might not be, I kind of like it when they say sounds like, and you get 3 or 4 bands pointing them in, because of, I think, Machine Head, especially like the Blackening era and Through the Ashes of Empires. That's a really, really big influence on me and us as a band, and some of the key influences of us, me and Arun are completely locked in on. And I always refer to Machine Head a bit like Alan Partridge when he's talking about the Beatles, and like, what's your favourite Machine Head album? It would be the best of Machine Head, because their live show is just unquestionable, like, just you can't mess with it. But they've obviously taken some really dodgy missteps.
What do you mean? Like the latest single?
I like the latest song, but the other 3 they've released I thought were terrible, and then I didn't like Catharsis. And I don't know if it's just that the standards slumped so much that I thought at least this wasn't a complete cheese fest. I was quite into it. But like I said, if I had to pick a favourite band, I still think I'd say Machine Head.
Well, this is the thing. Like, it's a contentious topic for me, because for a long time, and maybe even still now, I would say that my favourite artist of all time, and that is across any genre, any kind of music, my favourite one is Machine Head. But they have done a lot of stuff which really makes me question that. I was kind of, I didn't mind the new single. It wasn't really my favorite thing they've done, but I guess there is a standard to expect, because this is the same band that put out Burn My Eyes and the same band that put out The Blackening.
Well, and then one member of the same band.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like we could get down quite a controversial rabbit hole here if we're not too careful. So.
Let's before we get litigation from the 6 people that listen to this, we better dig out of our hole. Yeah. So, you are kind of the main driving force in the writing. Where do you kind of pull things together from? Are you riff driven? Are you concept driven? Is it a lyric here, or is it a kind of mix of all of that?
Riff.
Yeah. For me, it's from a few different places. It can be, I just literally pick up the guitar, I'm playing something, and then like something just sort of falls out, as it were, and I'm like, oh wow, that just stumble upon something. Sometimes I can be doing something, totally different, like go for a walk in the park and then just think of a riff or like a melody in my head, or a groove even. So like one of the best things I like doing is writing to a drum beat. Because once you kind of lock in with the groove, there's loads of different, and sometimes a certain feeling, if I'm feeling particularly pissed off or despondent or happy even sometimes maybe, but like that can inspire certain things. I don't know, like I think our songs come from lots of places. I wouldn't say we have one way of writing them, do we?
No, well, especially as we both do them, you know, it's some songs are 90% me and you'll tweak it for the initial bits, and then it could be you, but like Aftermath's a good example. That's a proper 50-50 right thing when we were pinging it about, and then obviously when we take it into the room with Sim, it'll develop again. I don't know. For me, I don't think it's ever forced. All the best stuff just sort of seems to happen. Goes from there. And the same with my vocals and my lyrics. The best ones are when they just sort of seem to happen, and then you get a rough idea, and then you can elaborate it after that. But yeah, just thank God for modern technology, because as I'm sure every other metal band under the sun is doing, we've done a lot of writing over lockdown, so at least we can keep that going and ping ideas back and forth via Dropbox and what have you. So it still felt really positive over the last few months and weeks. I mean, we missed out on some great gigs we were supposed to play, but you can't really be too upset about that. There's bigger things in life to worry about. So at least we're moving things forward, and yeah, it's all sounding good, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say actually, in addition to that, if you want a good window into how we write music, because obviously we're just about to release Aftermath, but this year we've released 2 other singles, and those are a pretty good window into how we write. You know, maybe I may as well just say it, but I suppose like the first single, Dead Behind the Eyes, was a mostly Jon affair. You know, I mean, he brought that song, and pretty much what you hear today is pretty much what he presented. You know, with a few tweaks here and there. Omen was the other way. Omen was pretty much me, and then Aftermath is a very much collaborative, and that's even more collaborative because I think, if I correct on Jon, but I think some of the elements of Aftermath came after we introduced the song to Sim, and he suggested some things, and we kind of incorporated those as well. So, you know, there's not really, it's not like all the songs come from one person or one method. It's like, you know, it can be anything.
So what about recording? Are you talked about modern technology. Are you still going into the studio to get, you know, the final cuts, or are you doing everything, you know, basically remotely and mixing yourselves?
For drum and vocals, we go to the studio. For everything else, I would say pretty much we do it remotely. Just that's in terms of tracking. I don't know if you want to comment some more, Jon, on the rest of the production.
Well, no, it's pretty much it, isn't it? Like the drums, ever since all these songs we've been doing and the new stuff we've got recorded and what we're aiming to do for after that, all the drums we've been recording in a studio, either at Silver Lining where we practice or Noise Boy Studios in Manchester. And then vocals, because weirdly they're so loud, we will do them at a studio. But then guitars, I think usually, Arun will track him or come round mine and we'll track him, and then reamp and just did that again. Use the joys of technology because we're pretty DIY. I mix all our stuff as well, and then so we basically just all do it, and I suppose we engineer it all, don't we? Apart from the drums. So yeah, it takes a bit longer, but we know what we want to get, so we can do it all, and then we send it off to a good friend to get mastered at the end, and then that's it. Job done.
And then release it ourselves as well at this moment in time.
Especially with Jon's artwork as well. You know, you've got complete creative control over everything you do. Really, you're not. You know, apart from the occasional trip to the studio and a final master, you kind of destinies in your own hands a little bit.
Yeah, and it works well. I mean, I suppose the closest thing to a hobby, I just really enjoy mixing and learning stuff. So, I mean, you can tell, I hope, that it's got a lot better over the years, but I feel like I can only really mix us, if that makes sense. I don't do anyone else. I don't try and do it to like make a bit of money or help bands out or anything. So we just mix our stuff, trying to get it exactly where we can. But then, you know, it means there's endless revisions. We can do it however much we want. And then, like you said, I do all the artwork as well. So it also saves a lot of money. Just my time that I'm still waiting to pay for.
Does it also kind of help? Obviously your aesthetic, which is another wank term, but you know what I mean. But it's quite strong. You know what I mean. You know when you see it Beyond Salvation. You've dropped for your merch for the new single. When Scarbearer came out. All those things. They look. You can tell they're you. It's not like you're going to a different graphic designer every time or a different artist. Does that kind of? I'm going to sound like a right tosser on this, but does that help? Do you think with your brand awareness in that way? Do people know it's you what they're getting, and do you think that's important?
I think it is, because I mean, I think it would be really weird and quite insulting to Jon if we suddenly ended up getting artwork from somewhere else. But I think, it's, it is. I think it is part of our signature aesthetic, for want of a better term. But I don't think we ever actually intended it. It's kind of, that's just sort of how it's happened.
So it's developed rather than being created.
I guess so. That's kind of how my interpretation of it, as a former fan and a now band member. That's kind of how I would see it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like my father-in-law, he was he was a creative director for advertising companies and stuff, and he always used to tell me like, I should just keep my artwork for our own band because it would give our band an identity. And then obviously I started doing stuff for us, and then done a lot of stuff for Badger and Badgerfest. So then when you start doing that, you get in touch with other bands. But without dwelling too much on my like artwork, without sounding a bit of a wanker myself, is I started doing it so if I did someone a cover or did us a cover, because it really started from us doing the first Beyond Salvation stuff, I didn't want what was on the cover to then look shit on a t-shirt. So I kind of limited the amount of colours I'd use, and I'd try and basically just rip off Mike Mignola and Bruce Timm and some comic book artists I was into, and sort of limit into this colour palette. And then the more you do it, the more you sort of just develop a style. And then, so I feel like I only do stuff I enjoy as well, like any other metal illustrations, and obviously our stuff can be whatever we want. So yeah, I suppose it's a combination of my art style being quite strict to how I want to do it, and then me always drawing some hooded woman as the main feature of one of our covers. So and we've got 3 of them on the new one. So yeah, I think it works all right nicely. I mean, sometimes I find it harder to do stuff for us because I can do anything I want, where if I'm doing something for a band in Manchester, they might just tell me we need blah, 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 and then I can just go away and draw it. Where with us, even though I've written all the lyrics, sometimes it's really, really hard to come up with stuff. But you try and twist it. Like I said, for Aftermath, I think the demo we had, I just had like a blown up photograph of a building, and it was like, yeah, that'll do it, but I just didn't want to try and do something too obvious. So I feel like the visuals we've got on the Aftermath stuff are the best we've had. I've always wanted to get a red logo in, and now I've done that. So
yeah, it's got a bit. When I first saw it, it's got a bit of a darker version of Testament Souls of Black to it. That kind of dark hooded finger with and it's like when it came out, it's like, oh, that, I mean, it's nice. It's just, it's fairly, just say, simple in the colour palette, but it's going to look wicked when the t-shirts come out. I think that's going to be, a real kind of like, ooh, who's that?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, we've had quite a few orders, which has been nice. And then, again, I don't know. I'm a t-shirt designer. I design t-shirts for a living, so it's kind of, I don't know. I'll do a cover and then I'll be like, see what it looks like on a t-shirt. Oh, fuck, that looks great. Yeah, okay, we'll do another t-shirt then. But yeah, the beauty of doing it, we're doing it made to order, so it's not as if we're even putting our hand in our pocket at the moment. If someone wants one, we can get them made to order, and then appreciate anyone that's put their hand in the pocket, especially at the moment. So yeah, it's been good. But at least I hope we can deliver, and it doesn't cost us anything. We can deliver something that looks cool and people want to wear it, and help us push the band as well, I suppose.
Yeah, walking billboards.
Yeah.
So talking about the new single, it's out this Friday, which is today when the episode comes out. What's obviously available all the normal places?
Yeah, it's on. So if you stream music online, it'll be available on like your Spotify's and Apple Music's and Deezer's and all that sort of thing. You said this is going to go out on the day it's released, so that means I can say that there's also a lyric video on YouTube. So on our Beyond Salvation channel, that video was expertly done by Studface Productions. It's a video that's so good. I wanted them to do videos for everything else, but that's another story. But yeah, we're really proud of that. So yeah, the song's available online on the streaming places on YouTube. Also, it'll be on our Bandcamp page. So if you go to beyondsalvation.bandcamp.com, it's on there as well. So yeah. So go to
Bandcamp and pay money for it, you miserable Spotify using bastards. Yeah.
I mean, I'm slightly hypocritical because I'm a miserable Spotify using bastard as well.
Me too. Only to check it's okay, and then I'll go and buy the real thing. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Or while I'm waiting for someone their bloody shit record company to deliver about 3 weeks after the album came out. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's basically how it'll go. So yeah.
Cool. So what's Aftermath about, other than you said you started off with the obvious? Is it about the obvious?
Well, it's taken about 4 different turns, actually. So I can't even remember what I initially wrote it about. I know there was something, like when I came with the chorus, and then without naming any names, it kind of turned into me writing it retrospectively, I think that's the right phrase, about someone else and someone dealing with negative people within their lives and coming out the other side and still having this shadow casting over them. And then it was that for a long time. And then, again, without being too wankerish and like just sat in bed reading my own lyrics. I don't do that. Just,
having a cry wank.
Yeah. It's like, oh, these are so deep. And then I felt like, I was thinking like, probably more out of worry because obviously when all this lockdown thing happened, I was thinking, oh God, in 6 months' time, we're going to be fucking inundated with bands like this song's called Lockdown, and we've got an EP coming out called Virus, and all these songs about like, just, you know what I mean, about being a bit of a twat, just getting overridden with these. So then I started thinking, oh no, it's going to be coming out, hopefully, when we've done it. I think people are going to think we've written this about all this and like the aftermath of what we're coming from and blah blah blah. I mean, some of the lyrics could be taken in that way. So I don't know. What I'm trying to say is, it got me thinking. Like when you hear about some of your favourite bands, and sometimes it's more annoying when you find out what the song's about because you thought it was about something else, and you find out it's about someone's dead cat or something, and you're like, oh, that's ruined that. So it's. I don't know, I started thinking, like, well, actually, these could be interpreted in different ways. But yeah, the main bulk of it was written about someone dealing with negativity in their life and then coming through it as a better person on the other side. I think that sums up a lot of our stuff, actually. It's that trying to, a bit kill switch engage, kind of trying to turn a negative into a positive. And then, yeah. Not just writing about devils and burning churches.
So what's next? Are you going to, another EP, another full-length album? What's the plans going forward? Obviously, you'd like to gig again at some point in the not too distant future, but
yeah, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, like I said, don't go too long, but there's about 3 or 4 things in the works. So we've got drums tracked for. Because we're not big enough for anyone to keep the mystique up, so we might as well tell you if you're more interested in that way.
I did wonder if we wanted to give away our plans, but we may as well, yeah, because who cares?
We've got some drums recorded for some older songs that end up staying in the set over the years. So we kind of updated them. One of them's had a massive rewrite So we got the drums done in the middle of like the lockdown, like when things got a little bit better and places started opening up again.
It was in about September where studios were kind of open, and in fact they were open, I think, and we were sort of allowed to have a bit of fun. So yeah, we that's when we got the drums done for these 2 songs.
So yeah, waiting to track guitars and vocals and everything on that. Then obviously we are waiting to try out bass players, so that could go really well. And ideally it'd be cool if they could record some of the stuff on these new bits. And then, as I said, we've written loads, so really, I don't know, it's just finishing writing the album and getting that into the practice room properly. But we're really aiming to get, I'd say, if things level off, get in the studio mid next year to record the full album, because I don't think we could pick or choose the songs we have now to just do an EP. I feel like it'd be telling one of your children you're not going to college. Sorry. It's old songs, new bass player, album is the gist of it.
Yeah.
Beyond Salvation Beanie.
And sell it out with hats. We were talking about this before we kind of we started recording. Obviously, you're Manchester, kind of part of the kind of larger 0161 community, and Manchester scene, especially from a metal point of view, is really strong at the moment. You kind of touched on it, saying that it can be quite hard. There can be kind of too many bands and too many people kind of coming in. Is that a real issue? Do you sometimes feel like, fucking hell, I'm never going to get another gig again because I'm fighting the same thing? Or is it, is in some ways it's good because you're not hitting the same small pub every Friday?
Yes.
I definitely think we've got ourselves on a few gigs by me saying, I'll do you a poster for one. So that's helped.
You out. Yes and no, I would say, because yes, there are a lot of bands, but they're not all playing the same kind of music. There was, I think at this moment in time, I can't think of any band that sounds like us. There was a band that sounded very similar to us, but they're not together anymore. But our sound is quite sort of unique. But then there's a group of bands that do another kind of sound, and a group of bands that do another kind of sound. And, so I think there's a lot of bands, but that means there's a lot of diversity. So yes, it can be difficult for the sheer number of bands, but no, because each one brings something different to the table. And, we've got things like Badgerfest, Sophie Fest, the 0161 All Dayers, like all these things which are great showcases for bands. So maybe it's overcrowded, but then maybe it's good to have a lot of choice. Who knows?
I say, as a punter, if you are one of these fantastic people that goes down and supports the local gigs, it's fucking brilliant, because I really just a lot of decent music and decent bands. I think we played it sounds a bit weird, we played a gig last year, and we played it with a band that were truly fucking awful, and it made me realise how many decent bands we've played with over the years, and on a consistent basis. Like, you're big in Manchester, and every band's going to be fucking decent.
Yeah.
So as a punter, it's great. It's just that you just want a gig. So I feel like when we're sort of saying it's overcrowded, it's just like, say if there's one of these bigger gigs coming up, like Badgerfest or Sophie Fest, and you're going to get a really decent crowd and you want to get on it, there's obviously 100 bands going for 10 slots. So it's either luck or who you know that get you in on the bill, really.
Yeah. Or if you do the post.
That's the thing. There's a lot of bands, but there are a lot of good bands as well. Obviously everyone's taste is different, but there are a lot of bands that work hard and are really good as well. So, it's sort of, there's definitely been times when, we've been at a gig and some bands have played and it's like, oh my God, we've got to up our game here because this lot are brilliant. So
even the all dayers, the 0161 community all dayers that Jay and James put on there, they're quite varied. So although the band, you probably won't get two bands that sound the same on them, they are actually quite complementary. You can have a quite a broad range of bands on the same day from all walks of life and all different ages and all that sort of stuff. So it's quite it's good from that point of view.
Another thing that's good for that is the Bloodstock Metal to the Masses. So you can end up with, say, like, I mean, if you look at the heat we played, I mean, there was us, our hardcore groove thrash, whatever you want to call us. There was basically a power metal band. There was like a sort of hard rockish kind of band. There was like a black metalish kind of band, and then I can't remember what the other one was, but there's maybe metal's such a big world nowadays that there's bands from all over the place, as in all over the sonic design space. That sounds so wanky, but you know what I mean.
We're all at it tonight.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like the sort of the big umbrella that metal is. Like there's so many bands from all over the place that I think actually it would probably be a bit boring if you put 5 thrash metal bands on, but. I don't know. I wouldn't be bored, but some people probably would.
What about when the big bands come to town? Obviously the Manchester's a major stop for most bands on either the big club circuits and the O2s and things like that. Is there a bit of a scrap to get onto those? Is that part of the challenge?
Yeah, it can. It can be. I mean that works on, I guess, all levels. I mean, I don't know that many local bands have supported someone at the arena, for example, but sometimes. So the one I'm thinking of is Tapestry Promotions. Like they'll put on bands, touring bands in Manchester, and then scour for local supports. So sometimes getting those can be a bit, it can be who and how quickly you get on it, which works either in your favour or against you. So.
Do you see less bands asking for a local band to support? Because I see both. I see I think when Annihilator went through, they kind of picked up a local band. I think they had, well, relatively local. I think they had Riptide when they're with you, and they had Illyrium when they came through Wolverhampton. And dotted around, and then you would see other bands that. When Municipal Waste and those guys came over, they all came, and there was 4 bands came on tour, and they didn't put a local band on anywhere. Do you think, is that sometimes a problem? Do you wish there was more local spots, or take you on tour with you?
I think it depends on the tour package. I mean, sometimes it comes as a tour package, so it's like, for example, like taking an announcement for today. For example, Trivium have just announced a European tour with Heaven Shall Burn, Tesseract, and Fit for an Autopsy. But that whole package is going to go on. So it's unlikely that they'll put another band, like another local band on, because you can't fit them all in. But then sometimes, like you said, like Annihilator will come round and go, right, but for example, last year we supported Gruesome, which is like, I wouldn't call them a death tribute band, but they're kind of that sort of, yeah. But Gruesome were playing around the country and around Europe, I think, and every single gig they had a different set of support bands because they were looking at the local scene. So I think it just depends, because it might make more sense for like a band like Trivium to put together a package because it's probably a bit more profitable for everybody involved, I think. But I don't know, to be honest. So.
I guess it just feels a shame at times that when you've got these big acts coming through, and this is from a punter's point of view, but I feel that that used to be the leg up to smaller UK bands is you get a local show, they like you, next time they come over they let you come on a couple of the legs, and there doesn't seem to be that tier system of getting up through the ranks. It just seems really hard at the moment to be anything more than a local band.
Yeah, but then again, it might be about draw as well, because I've definitely gone to gigs because not only have I liked the headline band, but I've also liked the support band. To be honest, I've even gone to gigs where I've gone to watch support band and not even been bothered about the headline band. Yeah, so sometimes that that draw of like a tour package can be everything, because it might be like, oh well, I'm not, I like the headline band but wouldn't necessarily pay this much to go see them, but because they're playing with X, Y, and Z, then. Then suddenly, I'll go to that gig, sort of thing. So yeah,
because I get what you're saying, because like, obviously, I would have been in bed by the time Lamb of God finished after playing after Creator, so that would have been fine. I would have been, I could have left Bristol and be back home again before I need to listen to it. It's all.
yeah.
So, what about the larger scene? Are you kind of obviously you're going to finger in the pie locally? That's a wrong euphemism, isn't it? But you know what I mean. What do you think? What do you think to the kind of the local scene in the larger scene in the UK at the moment? Are you kind of watching? Are you seeing kind of bands from all over, or do you kind of keep yourselves pretty much to yourselves and let people get on with what they're doing, or how kind of plugged in are you?
So one of the advantages of being a bit of a band whore is in some of those bands.
You're in all of them.
Well, yeah, but like in one of the bands, I only played with this band for like a year and a half, but I did a lot of gigging around the country, and in Wales and in Scotland as well. So technically abroad. Anyway, but because of that, you get to see bands, from not your local scene. You get to see other bands, out there as well. And yeah, it's quite cool because there's a heck of a lot of talent. I mean, you hear sort of anecdotally people, especially older people. Saying like, "Oh, the scene's dead." Not you, clearly not you, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing this.
It was when you said older people.
No. I mean, much older than you. But like, you hear them sort of saying like, "Oh, the scene's dead," or "There's no good music anymore." It's like you look at the underground scene. There's so much good music. It's like just fucking look. You know what I mean? Just fucking look. Give them a chance. I mean, yes, there's some ponies, but. Yes, but there always is. But like, there's also some brilliant music out there.
Yeah, there's I mean, I think it's great on the level that we are and a bit above that. But I think on even on a bigger side where these bands are, huge compared to us. If I had to pick my top 3 albums of the year, 2 of them are British. So number 1 would probably be Silosis, and then I probably put number 2 as Trivium, so that's that. But then I think my third favorite album this year is the Ingested album, and so that's 2 completely born and bred British bands just making absolutely killer music. So
yeah, for me, my top 3 is very similar. It's Silosis, Trivium, but my third one's Bleed From Within, and they're
Oh yeah, yeah, that'll be my probably top 5 anyhow. Definitely.
Yeah, so there's loads of. Loads of British talent as well, which is great.
What about the next stadium filler though? Where's the next Metallica, the next Judas Priest if they ever fucking retire?
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's that. I just think because the way the music industry's changed since from the last 15 years, from basically when the Napster stuff kicked off with Metallica. Ironically, you're not going to get another Metallica because there just isn't the money there. The bands that got me into heavy music are bands like Korn and Deftones and Limp Bizkit. And if you look at how fucking rich, like especially Limp Bizkit and Korn were, like around the time of Follow the Leader and Chocolate Starfish, I feel like that was the last generation of like proper rock stars we got because they were, playing heavy edgy music and making a lot of money off it. So, but that's money because it would take the shit out of me that if I had to go to HMV, it'd cost me 15, 16 quid to buy an album. And that's 15, 16 quid 20 years ago. Think how fucking expensive that is. So no wonder the music industry fell in on itself because places like HMV were just ripping off 14, 15-year-old kids that wanted an album. And that's why it went the way it did. I remember thinking Music Zone was the best thing in the world because I could get an album for $9.99. So I don't think there will be anyone that's really pessimistic. That's going to be.
It's a valid point. I don't think
headline download next. I don't know. Like once Lamb of God, but to think even Lamb of God, I really like him, but they're not the same as like, Metallica. I suppose Slipknot are epic, But is that something to do?
Do you think making it a bit more of an event is, I think, your Slipknots and your Ghosts and people like that who've got even Behemoth and all that those sort of things, having that massive stage presence and things, does that help with that? Because some of those things, I enjoy the stage show more than the music.
I think it depends. I mean, again, if you have everybody doing it, then it becomes stale. Slipknot and Behemoth and Ghost and such, and they're unique because there's not that many bands doing that kind of thing. But there's a beautiful simplicity to a band like Lamb of God, who are just 5 dudes in jeans and t-shirts or shorts and t-shirts who get up on stage and just fucking go for it.
I suppose where Metallica came from as well. And weirdly, I was watching that Gojira live set or listening to it while I was working today at Red Rocks. And I think if a band's good and they put the graft in and they've got the integrity and they've just got solid tunes like, say, Gojira. I mean, think how big Gojira are now. They're actually massive. And they're not a type of band you'd expect to really be headlining festivals and stuff. Because they are, fucking weird time signatures and growly vocals. I know they got a little bit clean on the last album, but it's cool to see when you've got, like you said, like Arun, a band that's just wearing jeans and t-shirts, and they're the ones that headline in like the likes of, Lamb of God and Gojira.
But I don't think we'll get another Priest or another Iron Maiden or another Metallica, because they bands like that, I think, invented a totally new style of music, whereas metal's, to put it very generally, has already been invented. So how likely is it that we'll get a band that also Metallica have been going for like 40 years, so maybe ask us in like 30 years time. You know what I mean? So and Metallica are indeed still going. So
right, finally, shout outs, any thanks, any pimping yourself out. Obviously you gave a bit of a plug, and we'll put all the links in the show notes anyway, but anyone you want to give a final shout out to?
Yeah, plenty of people. So as it's for the Aftermath single, so shout out to Chris from Noiseboy Studios for the drums, then Owen Alec from Silver Lining Studios, which is also where we practice, where we recorded the vocals. Shout out to Jon for doing the artwork and the mixing. No, but really, shout out to you, mate. Shout out to Lee Calpe for mastering mastering the song. Studface Productions for the video. The Metalist PR for our upcoming PR campaign. What else, John?
I don't know. I think going back to
our fans, obviously. Hang on, I should say our fans and anybody who wants to listen to it. Like, big shout out to you, because that's the thing that keeps us going.
Actually, the amount of support we've had already for people placing orders on merch is quite great. As I said to you the other night, they basically put their hand in the pocket and they don't even know what it sounds like yet. It could be shit. It's not, but it could be. So that's.
I promise you, it's not.
And then just like we were saying earlier, mate, a lot of the just the Manchester scene. So I think a big shout out to people like John Badger for putting on good gigs like Badgerfest, and then Jane and Jay running the 0161. They're the ones closest to my heart that I've worked with quite a bit. So just keeping up the good fight and keeping people's spirits up and keeping a bit of hope that we'll all get back to normal and getting those sweaty mosh pits of watered down beer again soon. So
just shout out to all the other bands as well, because I mean, like, we're all going through the same thing of sort of, I saw a post from one of our mates in another band today, like, really missing gigs, because it's not just about like having fun of playing a gig, it's like, it's cathartic, it's a sort of release, and we're all missing that at the moment. I tell you what, that first gig that we do, that we all do together, like when we come back after all this thing, is just going to be so sweet.
You mean in the aftermath?
Hey!
All right.
Love it, loving your work. On that note, I'm going to say my goodbyes. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I will look forward to seeing what comes next from you guys, and I hope the new signal was a massive success. Thanks very much.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
That was Beyond the Salvation. This is their brand new track we were just talking about. This is Aftermath.
Darkness
Okay, last but by no means least for this episode, the next track is Jericho. This is from the album Stranger Than Fiction, from a guest we had on a few weeks ago. This is Repo.
Show us what waits in Jericho! Show us what waits in Jericho!
That was episode 23. Thank you for following us. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for listening to our show. See you next time.